Yeah, I mean, I think there are two parts to CBDCs. So in one way, the issuer of a stablecoin is logically the central bank because they create the new core money, which then gets multiplied via private banking, by commercial banks, via debt. But the problem is that the governments are looking at things through a social control direction. So they're kind of taking a leaf from China's book and thinking that, well, not only do they want to provide electronic money in a tokenized format, but they want to institute social controls and microeconomic controls to monitor and influence what people spend money on, how they spend their money, and be in a position to have negative interest rates on cash and things like that. So I think if you listen to what the central banks are actually talking about when they talk about CBDCs, it's pretty dystopian and something that the general public will absolutely not want to use or see adopted. One of the reasons that a central bank might try to introduce a CBDC may be to decommission paper cash, like to remove cash from circulation and have this kind of more Orwellian controlled type of money replace it. And as people come to understand that money got worse, they have a heightened incentive to adopt a better money, i.e. Bitcoin. So I think, one of the forcing functions for Bitcoin adoption is the bad experience people have with banking, and central bank digital currencies are basically the almost worst conceivable banking or money experience you could imagine for society's freedom. We're just continuing to put megawatts online and provide hosting to people with miners. We'd be quite interested to make a bigger scale version of the solar and battery mining. The interesting point is that the cost structure of solar and battery power is harder in the normal case because typically residential and commercial users of power, or industrial users of power, are intermittent, and that means you've paid for the power infrastructure, but maybe it's only used at peak. The capacity is only used fully, maybe 5% of the time, and the rest of the time it's like under half used. And so that makes it much harder to recoup the investment. And also, if somebody's adding some more power infrastructure to an area, it takes time, and so they may get less return in the first year than in the second year as businesses move to the area to make commercial use of the power. So I think Bitcoin solves both problems because it's ready to use all the power and also to use it immediately, and to if the regional price of power goes above the Bitcoin mining value, to give it back to the grid or to sign contracts that allow that. So that's been proven to work for grid schemes, and I think actually ultimately it enables Bitcoin to fund the expansion of new power generation and green power generation. It hasn't seen rapid adoption because Lightning on the main chain is good enough, but as one of the concerns people have is that to onboard billions of people onto Lightning is difficult because they each have to establish a channel which requires an on-chain transaction. And if you divide a billion by the number of transactions per year, you end up with this taking years, right? And so with a layer 3, the people who open channels, Lightning channels on top of Liquid, are not directly starting from the main chain, they're starting from the layer 2 chain, and the layer 2 chain can make different trade-offs. So if there's high demand, you can make a slightly bigger block chain that is not as secure, not as censorship resistant, a bit more expensive to validate, but power users can still validate, and therefore open a lot more channels a lot more quickly. And the security trade-off that you make may actually be similar in the end, because Lightning is already a kind of hot wallet phenomena where you have to be online, or your equipment or somebody's equipment has to be online to route channel payments. And usually for the individual user, the channels are not so big. They're more retail payments and micropayments. So it's a okay trade-off. I think people are okay with cash in their paper cash in their wallet, or the amount of lightning on their smartphone that is less than the value of the smartphone, and they might drop the smartphone and lose it. Right. So and you can have backups too. So I think that trade-off is good.